It's a dark, rainy night on a treacherous highway, and John is racing home, his heart heavy with suspicion and dread. Is his wife, Kelly, really cheating on him with this smooth-talking Chet Carpenter? As the clock ticks down to the moment of truth, John grapples with heartbreak, anger, and the fear of losing everything he loves. With his nephew tailing her, the truth is just a motel room away. Will John uncover the shocking betrayal before it's too late? Join us for a gripping tale of love, lies, and the desperate fight to save a family. Two people in love, it's dark, and the road feels treacherous. This is a two-lane highway, fast and slick with rain, and I'm still an hour away from home. How did it come to this part of me? Just wants to turn the wheel, let my SUV flip, and say goodbye to this tangled mess. But I won't, because I love my two kids, and despite everything I still love my wife an hour from home, and I am wondering what I'll find when I get there. I'll admit it, I'm angry and utterly confused. My wife couldn't be cheating on me, could she? Especially not with the guy I'm worried about, but soon I'll know within the hour. It'll all be clear. I glance at the dashboard clock. It's 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday, November 14th, 2013. Dark, cold, and wet. I should have had my tires replaced, or at least checked. They're nearly bald, but this is just my old work truck, not the good one. Kelly wouldn't even be allowed near it. It's too unsafe. I only used it today so my nephew Wayne could use the better truck. Glenn just turned 19, fresh out of high school and planning to work a year before college. He's a good kid though. Oldest son of my oldest brother. He's been working with me for a while now. Lately with his sprained ankle he's mostly been splitting firewood. All right, I'll admit it, I'm a farm boy. Well, not just a farm boy. I graduated high school and college, finishing my degree in 4 years. I'm no tough guy, just someone who works hard for his family. No special skills, just grit. I even joined the army reserves with a uniform and felt proud of it. Made it to E5, but was never called up for anything overseas, and thankfully that's behind me now. It was mostly the motor pool, but still I love my country. I was raised alongside for siblings. I'm the middle one. This road is dangerous tonight, slick from the misty rain, making everything slippery. People drive with less caution in this kind of weather. I'm in a hurry, maybe too much of one. Glenn told me if I rush I might get there in time. And where exactly is there a motel? 6 just off Interstate Route 81 in Pennsylvania. Who might be there? None other than my beloved yet frustrating wife Kelly, possibly with her alleged friend Chad Carpenter. I need to get there, need to stop her before any lines are crossed that we both regret. Wayne's been in my good truck today tracking Kelly while I went to Martinsburg to handle a situation with some guys who thought they could rip off a couple of my workers. My crew had delivered 8 cords of seasoned oak firewood, but the guy suddenly claimed it wasn't good enough and refused to pay. He even brought his brother along to try and intimidate, as Martinsburg has grown into a distant DC suburb where housing is pricey and firewood sells for $200 a cord. Look, cutting and splitting wood is grueling work, and I won't let anyone cheat my crew out of $1,600. I had a baseball bat on the back seat just in case. Long story short, we got our money. Kelly knew I'd be tied up today. Maybe she thought it was her perfect chance to pull something off, but I doubt she considered Wayne. He's been quietly keeping tabs on her friendship with Chad for a few weeks. Chad's a classic smooth talker, hovering around Kelly like she's some kind of prize. Nothing's happened yet, but tonight seems like their moment. I noticed the fuel gauge dipping low. Better pull in and fill up. I've called Wayne, check on the latest. This situation is tearing me apart. Kelly has always been a strong willed woman. I'll give her that. I've got my hard edges too. We've been married for 15 years and we've got a wonderful kids. Martin, who's 12, and Annie, who's 11. They're amazing kids and I love them. I still love their mother too. Kelly and I met through my younger sister. The two were sorority sisters in college. Kelly was the kind of girl who's had everything she ever wanted. Her parents are wealthy and she was the prom queen. Late cheerleader and popular with everyone. College didn't change that she had guys chasing after her like she was their biggest hope. How did we meet? One. For my sister took me to the Apple Festival outside Gettysburg. It must have been 1995. Kelly was there serving up those French red sweet potatoes that people seem to love, but I can't stand. As I grumbled to my sister about waiting in line for something I didn't even like, the girl behind the table, Kelly as it turned out, smacked me on the head with an umbrella. If you don't like my fries, then why are you even in line? She snapped. Not one to back down, I shot back. Who are you? The tall queen of fried snacks. Kelly was definitely taller than me, and I couldn't resist taking a jab at it. My sister stepped in with a laugh. Kelly, meet my little brother, Johnny. Kelly smirked, looking down at me with a grin. Little brother, huh? Looks like you found him in Munchkin Land, and that's how it all began. Minutes later, we were at a picnic table exchanging quick-witted remarks. Me and Kelly locked in a back and forth. Had I fallen for her? Absolutely, but I knew I couldn't show it. Not just yet. Kelly was one of the most striking women I'd ever met, and she'd called me at just the right moment. My college girlfriend had left for California in search of her ideal partner, so I was nursing a few bruises of my own. As for Kelly, I'd soon find out. Her last boyfriend had his issues too. Couldn't stay faithful and expected her to do more than she was ready for. When she refused, he moved on. I learned this on one of our first dates. Kelly was laying down a couple of rules, making it clear that if I was seeing her, I wasn't seeing anyone else, and she wasn't planning on giving anything away until she was ready to settle down. She practically told me she was still a virgin. I wasn't sure if I believed it, but she certainly had her standards. After a year of dating, I finally got up the nerve to ask her to marry me. I was nervous. I half expected her to be holding out until someone better came along, but I gave her a ring and asked if she wanted to see where our story could go. She laughed and said nothing had really started yet, but she'd give it a try. Now here I am filling up on gas, grabbing a black coffee and a bag of chips from the store. I know Kelly wouldn't approve. She's put snacks like that on the banned list along with sodas, white bread, candy, ice cream, and pastries. Says I need to watch my cholesterol. Taking a quick stop in the restroom, I found myself wondering why she'd even consider straying, and with someone like Chet Carpenter, no less. It's eating me up inside. I'm no absentee husband. I'm not lazy, and I work hard for my family. I went to college. I'm no fool, and while staying on my dad's farm wasn't an option with two older brothers already there, I wasn't about to work inside an office either. With some help from my grandparents, I started my own lawn service, bought equipment, and eventually went into firewood. Soon enough, I had a snow removal contract for the winter, working with businesses, and even a county contract for clearing roads and lots. Kelly managed the books, payroll, and most of the hiring and firing. I'd say we're doing all right. After finishing up, I got back to my SUV and dialed Wayne. He picked up on the first ring. I've got some bad news, Uncle John, he said. I didn't want any sugar coating. What is it? Wayne, Aunt Kelly and Mr. Carpenter just checked into the Motel 6. They're there now. I took a breath. All right, Wayne, I'm on my way. What are you going to do, Uncle John? Joe, I don't know yet, I answered. I turned the key and got back on the highway, hoping the next 40 minutes would finally reveal the truth. I pushed the speed limit, but it turned out I was drawing more attention than I thought. I got pulled over not for speeding but for a broken tail light. Why would a trooper stop me in the dark on a rainy night? Guess he didn't mind risking a close encounter with passing traffic just to hand me a ticket. I took it, thanked him, and got back on my way, but the delay cost me another 15 minutes. The whole thing with Chet Carpenter felt like a bad joke, one that only grew worse. He was new in town, a loudmouth who liked to show off, yet he had enough money to buy his way into the country club. Kelly insisted we join. Kelly is like a blonde goddess, statuesque at 511 with stunning blue eyes and a face that could stop traffic. She has an effortless magnetism That could command attention in any room. And she knows it too for over 15 years. She's used her looks to keep me on my toes. Not that I mind, I match her energy. Stride for stride, Kelly's 2 inches taller than me, and when she wears heels she really towers over me. She does it on purpose, especially when we're at the club. She'll show up in one of her sleek black dresses, nylons, and those patent leather heels, knowing it'll get under my skin. In return, I wear moccasins just to add to the effect. We're always in a playful back and forth, especially in public. At home things are different. In public I'm never right. At home I'm never wrong. I still can't imagine her being involved with someone like Jed Carpenter. Sure, everyone knows Kelly and I argue and poke at each other. That's likely why, as Glenn tells me, we're in this mess apparently. Carpenter's been running his mouth, betting that he could get Kelly to fall for him by Thanksgiving, which is just a week away. Glenn even says Carpenter's been collecting bets and offering odds. It's infuriating, and it's breaking my heart to think Kelly might be caught up in this if she knew it was all over. But I know she'd be furious. But Kelly isn't one to keep up with gossip, and if there was talk of some wager, she probably never heard it yet. Her behavior lately has me on edge. She's been distant at home, and whenever she's on the phone and I walk in, she'll either leave the room or lower her voice. There have also been times when I've tried calling her and she hasn't answered, which is unusual since she's always been easy to reach, especially because she handles a lot in our business. It's like her mind's been elsewhere. I just hope it's not Chad Carpenter that's occupying her thoughts. I pulled over and called Glenn again. He picked up right away. Hello, Wayne, I asked. Yeah, Uncle John, it's me. It's definitely her. I'm sorry, Uncle John, I didn't get a close look at her face, but it's her dark brown raincoat, and she had her hair in that long French braid like always. She was wearing her hat too. I didn't see her car. He must have driven them both there. I guess she met him somewhere. I could hear Glenn holding back tears. Hang in there, Wayne, I've on my way something else. GW'd at me today was November 15th. My birthday had been on the 12th, my 40th, and Kelly hadn't said or done a thing since the kids came along. Birthdays have always been a big deal in our family, not necessarily with gifts, but with cake, candles, ice cream, and singing happy birthday together. I like to sing of key on purpose just to annoy Kelly, and I always tell her not to make a fuss, but the truth is I enjoy it. When Tuesday came and went without a word, I admit it stuck a little. I guess I know why now. I picked up speed. I had to know I was going to catch her. Maybe I should call home. I pulled over, grabbed my phone, and dialed the house. My mom picked up. Hello. Hey, mom. It's me. Is Kelly there? Oh, Kelly. She had to go out. I'm watching the kids until she gets back. Did she mention when she'd be back? No, Johnny. She just said she'd be gone for a bit. Asked me not to call her and promised she'd be back before you got home. Thanks, mom. That confirmed it. Kelly was out with Mr. Big Short, unknowingly helping him win his bet while my mom stayed home with our kids. I felt a lump in my throat, though I kept it together. Kelly and I had talked about fidelity before we got married. I'd had a few flings before her, but nothing serious. Kelly, on the other hand, was everyone's dream girl. I assumed she had just as much experience as I did during our dating and the entire engagement. She insisted she was a virgin. I was skeptical, but I never called her on it. We had the big church wedding she wanted. We're both Methodists, so we picked her church, and my family didn't mind. My parents and siblings adored her from the start. Almost 300 people attended the June wedding, one of the hottest days of the year. For our honeymoon, we went to Niagara Falls. Where else would we go? Through our whole relationship, it felt like I was always under a watchful eye, with 4 siblings and loads of cousins who all loved Kelly. There wasn't a move I made that didn't get back to her somehow. As for me watching her, it never even crossed my mind. I believed that if she loved me, she'd stay faithful, and if she didn't, I didn't want to know. As for the whole virgin thing, I assumed it was just talk. I doubted her claim about being a virgin right up until our wedding night. Then I discovered she Truly was she'd never been with anyone. Else why now the why after 17 years? Of ups and downs would she throw us away? And for someone like Chad Carpenter I forced myself to stop thinking about it. Before I lost my composure, men don't cry. Especially not in my family, I thought. Back to our wedding night, remembering how small and nervous she seemed for 2 years I'd listened to her tales of high school romances, all the boys she'd turned down and the heart she'd supposedly broken. I knew I was lucky to be the one she chose. I recalled the time her last serious boyfriend came back into the picture. It felt like that Roy Orbison song, Running Scared. She'd loved him enough to almost give him everything. When he reappeared, I spent months feeling on edge, but just like in the song she chose me, I felt like a giant. That day later, she jokingly told me she stuck with me out of pity, and I just thought fine by me as long as I get to keep her. Actually, we didn't fully consummate our marriage that first night. We made love, and I remember it vividly. Every gentle touch, every moment, but it wasn't until the following morning that we truly became one. No, she couldn't be out there with Carpenter. Our bond was too deep. I glanced at the dashboard. Clock, just 10 more minutes. In 10 minutes I'd be at the motel. What was I going to do? I had no clue, but as I saw the light from the motel up ahead, I knew there'd be no turning back. Pulling into the lot, I parked next to my good truck and saw Glenn waiting. Glenn walked over. Carpenter's already gone. He wasn't in there long. Your wife is still inside. Thanks, Wayne. I braced myself and headed toward the door. My whole life felt like it was on the verge of collapse. Memories rushed in uninvited. I remembered the first time she'd surprised me with her affection back when she'd been so nervous, or the night at Gord Pinchot State Park, leaning close daringly as she showed her love for me even with people around. There were other times, like a moonlit night at Myrtle Beach, the two of us sneaking away for quiet moments while the kids slept. Thinking of her with that man with Chad Carpenter made my stomach turn. Then I thought of all we built together, the births of our children, the trips, our adventures as a family. The memories were endless. The times we'd visited Hershey, gone to New York for plays, the trips to Branson and Nashville, and the big and little moments that bonded us. I remembered Kelly's broken foot and how I'd pushed her around Walmart in a wheelchair, the llamas classes, our kids' first steps and first words. I remembered the pain of losing her dad to a heart attack, likely the reason she'd put me on that RCT diet. Was I about to lose all this? For a moment I considered turning back. I didn't want to catch her like this, didn't want to confront what we both knew would be unforgivable, but I kept moving, reaching room 123. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Someone inside muttered, I told you to leave. I'm not doing that. The voice was unfamiliar. I knocked a little harder and called out, it's not who you think it is. The door opened slightly, secured by a chain right away where I could tell it wasn't Kelly. My heart sank. The woman inside asked, who are you? Are you with the police? No, I'm not the police, I said. Thinking fast, I reached into my pocket, pulled out the bills I'd collected earlier, and handed a 50 through the door. Here, I said, just let me in for a moment. She paused, then slowly opened the door. Wider. The room was dim, and she was standing off to the side, gripping something in her hand. She whispered in a low, worry voice, you're sure you're not the police? No, ma'am, I assured her. She pointed downward with what I initially thought was a pistol. I knelt on the floor, hands up like something out of an old western. I had a hunch about what was going on. I think I'm the husband of the woman you were pretending to be tonight, I said. She kept whatever she was holding aimed at me. Now I could see it wasn't a gun, though I wasn't sure what it was. What do you know about that? She asked. Still guarded the man you were with earlier. Made a bet he cared with my wife before Thanksgiving. I choked up a bit, spotting a blonde wig on the dresser by the bed. But it looks like he hired you instead. She made a face. Yeah, a real piece of work. Can I get up? I asked. She put down the chicken wing she'd been holding, and I noticed the KFC box beside her. Yeah, but don't try anything funny, I know. Karate. I doubted her claim, but didn't Argue glancing at the clock, I noted it. Was still early. How much did he pay you? She paused, eyes calculating $500. I suspected it was less, but let it slide. How'd you like to make another 500? She raised a brow. What do you want me to do? It's still early, and if I'm right, Carpenter's probably at the country club right now boasting about a victory he didn't earn. Or pay you if you come with me and help expose him. She held out her hand. Money first. I counted out the bills, grateful I'd insisted on cash for the wood delivery earlier. The payoff would eat into my earnings, but this felt worth it. As she put on her coat, I called home. MOM answered. Hello, is Kelly back? Yet I asked. No, she's still out. When will you be home? I need to get back to your father. I'll be a little while longer. I could hear the mild annoyance in her voice, but I had to do this. The woman and I climbed into my old SUV and headed for the country club. Glenn had already left. Sure enough, we spotted Carpenter at the bar when we arrived. I asked my hired wife to keep up the disguise a bit longer, and together we strolled into the club like we owned the place. It was just after dinner, so the club was busy and a small band played, keeping the atmosphere lively. We walked right past the front desk and into the main area, heading straight for the bar where Carpenter and a few other men were gathered. I steered my wife by the arm toward them. I called out, "Hey, Harry," to one of the men beside Carpenter. You've met my wife, haven't you? Harry looked completely shocked. Carpenter turned around, and when he saw the woman beside me, his face turned ghostly pale. Hey, Chad, I said, addressing the crowd. You all remember my wife, right? She's been with Chad here all afternoon. At that, the woman pulled off her wig, revealing the ruse. Harry, who was quicker than the others, looked at Carpenter with a smirk. Looks like you owe me some money. Chad. Carpenter fumbled, pulling out a roll of cash. He peeled off a few bills and handed them over, but Harry didn't budge. That's just the beginning. I want my full winnings. Reluctantly, Carpenter handed over more bills. By then, a few other men had gathered, forming a line behind Harry. Carpenter looked ready to pull out his checkbook. I glanced over the line, noting each face mentally, tallying how many of these guys had bet that my wife would fall for Carpenter's ploy. One of them was even an officer of the club. It was then that the club president noticed the line forming, and the cash changing hands. Waging was tolerated at the club, but collecting in the bar or restaurant was frowned upon. His paw formed. The president strode over, looking too displeased. What's going on here? I turned to him. These men here place bets with Mr. Carpenter, waging he could seduce my wife before Thanksgiving. When that didn't pan out, he hired this lady to impersonate her. I imagine he took photos as proof. The president raised an eyebrow, understanding the situation. Carpenter tried to brush it off, laughing nervously. It was just a joke, just a harmless joke. I didn't let it slide. It wouldn't have been a joke if I hadn't found out my wife would have been humiliated. I looked at the president. I'll be withdrawing my family's membership in the morning, Mr. Bowen. The president placed a firm hand on my elbow. No, you won't, John. Then, turning to Carpenter, he said, I want you out right now. He shifted his glare to the other club officer involved in the bet. And you out as well. He swept a hard look over the rest of the men. As for the rest of you, I want a meeting first thing in the morning. None of you are welcome on the course, so don't bother showing up for a tea time. And if any other club asks why you're not members here anymore, I'll make sure they know the reason. I looked around at men I thought of as friends, men whose wives were close with Kelly, but now it didn't matter anymore. They'd crossed the line. The president gave my elbow a reassuring squeeze. John, please don't leave. We need people like you in this club. I wondered if the club president genuinely meant what he'd said, or if he was thinking about how I cleared the parking lot for free and winter, but I realized we wouldn't leave the club, not right away. We're leaving could look like an admission that Kelly might have done something wrong, and I wasn't about to let anyone tarnish her reputation. I told him, this hurts, Mr. Bowen. Kelly's my wife, I'll let you know. With a final nod to the men, I took the woman's arm and walked her back out of the club. A little while later, I dropped her off at the motel, thanked her, and checked if she had a ride. She said she Did so I left and headed home all the way home. I wondered where Kelly was it. Wasn't that late maybe she was doing some early Christmas shopping or picking up things for Thanksgiving dinner, but I also realized how exhausted I was not just from the drive or the trouble with those men in Martinsburg, but from everything that had happened with Carpenter and my friends betting on my wife as I turned down my street. All I could think about was my recliner, the TV, and maybe a bowl of Rocky Fudge ice cream. Dinner wasn't even on my mind. Of course, I knew the ice cream was wishful thinking. Kelly would make sure I stuck to my diet. As I pulled up to the house, I noticed cars everywhere. Looked like someone was hosting a big party. Our neighborhood was usually quiet, lined with ranch-style homes, so it stood out. There were even cars on my lawn. It dawned on me that the party was at my house. Had I forgotten something? If Kelly had planned something and I'd missed it, I'd never hear the end of it. Unable to get in the driveway, I parked on the street and started up the walkway. My nerves were already kicking in, opening the door as quietly as I could. I thought maybe I'd slip in unnoticed, but the second the door opened, I was hit with bright lights, decorations, and a big happy birthday banner. The place was packed and everyone suddenly shouted, "Surprise happy birthday!" A whirlwind of noise and faces surrounded me. Kelly brushed over, radiant in a pale blue blouse and a dark blue miniskirt that showed off exactly why people couldn't help but notice her. "Where were you?" she asked, her tone both relieved and playful. "We've been waiting for you." My kids were clinging to me, and my nephew Glenn tossed a little wad of paper at me with a cheeky grin. Kelly took my arm, pressing close to me, her familiar warmth breaking through my surprise. I whispered I had to stop by the club. She leaned down, since she's taller than me, and gave me a warm, wet kiss on the cheek, just the way I liked. She murmured with a glint in her eye, "This wouldn't have anything to do with some bets at the club, would it?" I felt my face flush. She'd known the whole time. She twirled around and her long blonde braid swiped across my face. "I can't wait until everyone leaves," I thought. Kelly, my wife, my partner, the mother of my kids, wrapped her arms around my waist, her warm touch grounding me as she began guiding me toward the living room. "Come on in, honey," she said, her voice rich with excitement and pride. "We've got your cake, ice cream, presents, your favorite chips and dip, everything you like." She turned to the crowd, her voice rising to address them all with that same familiar warmth. "Everyone, John is home, my husband, my big handsome hero. Didn't expect this, did you?" she whispered with a mischievous smile. "Nope. You got me good," I admitted, squeezing her hand. "I thought for sure you'd finally given up trying to surprise me." She laughed, the sound filling the room, and everyone turned to watch as her laughter was contagious, and I found myself laughing to the tension from earlier in the day finally melting away as she pulled me over to the couch. Our kids followed close, practically glued to my side, each one eager to tell me something about the party Dad we made. "You this," my daughter announced, holding up a homemade card adorned with glitter and stickers. MOM helped us pick out the colors. I took the card carefully, admiring every little detail. She had added, feeling that familiar surge of pride. "It's perfect," I said, reaching down to give her a hug. "You did an amazing job." Kelly pulled me toward the dining table, where a towering and cake waited, topped with the candles I knew would take a good 3 breaths to blow out. She held my hand, and I felt her give it a gentle squeeze as she leaned in, whispering, "I wanted this to be perfect for you, Johnny, just a little reminder that you're everything to us." The sincerity in her words hit me right in the chest, and for a second I was taken aback. I looked at her, at the way her eyes softened as she spoke, and I knew that this wasn't just a party, it was our promise. Kelly had planned every little detail to make sure I knew, despite any misunderstandings or rumors, that she was right here with me and always would be. Taking a breath, I looked around the room at the people, the decorations, and the life we'd created as the crowd counted down to the big candle blowout. Kelly wrapped her arms around my shoulders, resting her head against mine, and together we leaned forward to make that wish. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth Of her next to me, knowing that no matter what life threw our way, we were in it together, side by side. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button for more of Love, Lust, Lies.